Hi everyone, if you're struggling not getting success, then this video is for you. Nowadays, there's one truth in life that nobody can change. Your success is in your hands. It is not in the hands of luck. The only person who has the power to decide your future is you. But the question is, do you believe in yourself? Today, we'll talk about it. My name is Muniba Mazari, and I'm a motivational speaker. If you find this video fruitful, then you can appreciate me by like and subscribe and start a new journey with me. Let's start the topic. There are moments in life when the loudest voice is the one that says nothing. And in that silence, something miraculous begins to happen. Silence is strength, not weakness. This is a truth often misunderstood in a world that constantly equates power with noise, visibility, and dominance. But true strength rarely needs to shout. It does not demand attention. It radiates quietly from within. In a society where people are encouraged to speak up, stand out, and never back down, choosing silence is seen as surrender. But that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the highest form of self-control. To remain silent in the face of provocation is not weakness. It is wisdom. It takes incredible inner strength to stay composed when your name is being misused, when your intentions are being questioned, or when your heart is being tested. Anyone can react, but very few can stay still. That stillness is not indifference, it is understanding. It's knowing that reacting to everything only scatters your energy, while silence preserves it. You are not avoiding the storm, you are learning how to stand in it without letting it enter you. When someone speaks with anger, provokes you, or tries to pull you into their chaos, silence is your protection. It is a boundary. It says, I will not engage in anything that steals my peace. And make no mistake, this kind of boundary is not born from fear. It is born from clarity. Clarity about who you are and what you value. It takes far more courage to be silent when you could retaliate than it does to defend yourself through words. Silence in that moment becomes a conscious choice. One that says, I value my growth more than winning this argument. Silence also teaches you how to listen when you are not trying to prove yourself, when you are not consumed by the need to be right. You start to observe. You begin to notice what people really mean, not just what they say. You see their fears hidden behind aggression, their wounds wrapped in pride. And you stop taking things so personally. You realize that most of what people project onto you has nothing to do with you. And that realization in itself is liberating. It frees you from the constant need to defend yourself. In silence, you begin to hear your own voice more clearly. You start to recognize the quiet nudges of your intuition, the wisdom of your own spirit. You realize that strength isn't found in dominance, it's found in self-awareness. And the more you become aware of who you are, the less you feel the need to convince others of it. You no longer need to respond to every criticism, react to every opinion, or chase validation from the outside world. Your silence says, I know who I am, and that's enough. Some of the most powerful decisions are made in silence. Some of the greatest transformations happen quietly, behind closed doors, when no one is watching. You don't need to announce your healing. You don't need to post every move or explain every choice. Your silence becomes your sacred space. A space where you evolve, reflect, and align with what truly matters. In that space, your strength multiplies. It grows in the shadows, in the stillness, in the pauses, between one chapter and the next. So While the world may try to rush you, push you, or pressure you to speak up just to be heard, choose silence when it serves your peace. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have nothing to prove. Let your silence be a quiet declaration of your inner power. Let it be the place where your strength is born and reborn again and again. Not every battle needs a response. This is a lesson life teaches over time, often through pain, exhaustion, and quiet realizations. We live in a world where everyone feels compelled to defend, explain, prove, and argue. There's a constant pressure to respond to comments, criticisms, misunderstandings, and attacks. But there is deep wisdom in choosing which battles are truly worth your energy. The need to respond to everything is rooted in fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being judged, fear of losing control. But real peace begins when you understand that your value is not tied to other people's opinions, and your worth is not defined by how well you fight every battle. Responding to every slight, every rumor, every insult only drains you. It keeps you in a cycle of defensiveness, and that cycle robs you of clarity. Not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every confrontation requires your involvement. Sometimes silence is not about retreat, it's about redirection. It's about stepping away from chaos so you can protect what truly matters. Your energy, your purpose, your mental peace. The world is loud and people will always have something to say, whether you rise or fall. If you keep trying to fight every battle, you lose sight of the bigger picture. Choosing not to respond is not giving up. It's choosing growth over ego. Ego wants to win. Ego wants to be right. Ego wants the last word. But the soul wants peace. And peace often comes when you let go of the need to be understood by everyone. Because truthfully, not everyone will understand you. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you, no matter how much you try to explain yourself. That's not your burden to carry. Let them think what they will. The people who truly see you will never need a detailed explanation to understand your silence. Every time you choose not to respond, you are reclaiming your power. You are saying, I decide where my energy goes. And that is a form of strength that cannot be shaken. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop giving power to situations and people that do not align with your growth. You learn to pause, reflect, and rise above. And in that space between stimulus and response, you grow. You become wiser. You begin to recognize that peace is more valuable than winning temporary arguments. So there are moments when people will try to provoke you, test your patience, and question your integrity. But not all of them deserve an answer. Some of them are projecting their own pain. Some are looking for a reaction just to feel significant. When you choose silence in those moments, you deny them that control. You maintain your dignity. You keep your soul intact. You realize that walking away is not always weakness. It is often the highest form of strength. Life will present you with countless opportunities to engage in conflict, but as you evolve, you start to see through the noise. You begin to ask yourself, is this really worth my peace? And if the answer is no, you learn to let it go. You learn that your response is your power, and withholding it is often the most powerful thing you can do. You do not need to prove your intelligence through argument. You do not need to prove your goodness through defense. You do not need to explain your decisions to people who never cared to understand your journey. There is something sacred about walking away from conflict with grace. It's not that you couldn't respond, it's that you chose not to. And that choice speaks volumes. It says that your time, your energy, your spirit are too valuable to be wasted on battles that don't lead to growth. You begin to save your fire for the things that truly matter. You begin to understand that real power is quiet, calm, and deliberate. Growth speaks louder than explanation. We often feel the urge to explain ourselves to the world, to justify our silence, our distance, our choices, and our transformation. But true growth rarely needs a microphone. It reveals itself through actions, shifts in energy, and changes in behavior. When you begin to evolve, the people around you will notice, not because you tell them, but because your presence changes. The way you carry yourself, the way you respond, the things you no longer tolerate, all of it becomes a quiet announcement that something within you has shifted. There's a deep sense of freedom in realizing you don't owe anyone a detailed narrative of your healing journey. You don't have to go back and convince the people who hurt you that you've moved on. You don't need to update the ones who left you behind. Growth doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't perform for approval. It simply is. It becomes a quiet confidence that speaks for itself. People may question you, misjudge you, even label your growth as arrogance or distance. But the truth is, they're witnessing a version of you that no longer depends on their acceptance. As you grow, your priorities change. What once triggered you now feels small. What once seemed urgent now feels unnecessary. You stop rushing to explain why you didn't respond, why you walked away, why you said no, or why you chose yourself, because your peace becomes more important than being understood. You begin to trust that those who are meant to be in your life will respect your evolution, even if they don't fully understand it. And those who question your growth are often those who benefited from your lack of it. You learn that growth is a deeply personal journey. It is not linear, not always pretty, and rarely loud. It's made up of silent mornings when you choose peace over chaos. It's found in the difficult conversations where you finally speak your truth. It's woven into the moments when you choose to walk away without resentment. These moments don't need a stage. They don't need applause. They are sacred, intimate, and real, and they change you from the inside out. When you no longer feel the need to explain your growth, you reclaim your energy. You stop trying to convince people of your worth. You stop rehearsing answers in your head. You start to live in alignment with who you are becoming. That alignment becomes magnetic. It attracts people and opportunities that resonate with your new frequency. It also repels what no longer serves you. And while that can be painful, it is necessary. Growth will cost you comfort, familiarity, and sometimes relationships. But what you gain in return is authenticity, peace, and purpose. There will be people who try to bring up your past, who want to remind you of who you used to be. Let them. They are stuck in a chapter you've already closed. You don't have to revisit old pain just to prove that you've healed. You don't need to narrate your transformation to those who never supported it. Your life will become the evidence. Your joy will be the proof. Your consistency will be the answer. And those who pay attention will see it without needing a single word from you. And in the silence of your growth, something beautiful happens. You begin to rely less on external praise and more on internal alignment. You stop chasing recognition and start seeking peace. You stop trying to control how others see you and start focusing on how you see yourself. The noise around you fades and the voice within you becomes louder. That voice knows your journey, knows your battles, and knows your strength. And that voice doesn't need to explain anything to be heard. Stillness aligns you with purpose. In a world that constantly glorifies movement, speed, and productivity, choosing stillness can feel uncomfortable. It can even feel wrong. But within stillness lies the sacred space where clarity is born. When you allow yourself to pause, to breathe, to simply be, you begin to reconnect with what truly matters. You step out of the noise and return to your center. And from that center, everything becomes clear. The distractions fade, the expectations soften, and the truth begins to rise to the surface. Stillness is not the absence of progress. It is the soil in which purpose takes root. When you are always running, always striving, you miss the gentle nudges that guide you toward what your soul truly craves. You miss the whisper that says, "This is not your path," or "You are enough as you are." It is only in stillness that you begin to hear that inner voice, the one that speaks with kindness, with wisdom, and with love. That voice doesn't compete for attention. It waits patiently for you to listen. And when you do, it becomes your compass. There are moments in life when everything feels uncertain, when the path ahead is foggy and the weight of the unknown is heavy. The temptation is to panic, to act quickly, to make noise just to feel in control. But true direction does not come from panic. It comes from peace. And peace begins in stillness. When you sit with yourself, without distraction, without judgment, you begin to unravel the layers of confusion and fear. You begin to see what is real and what is not. You begin to align not with what the world wants from you, but with what your soul is here to give. Stillness is where you meet yourself again. Not the version of you that performs or pleases, but the version that simply exists without apology. In that quiet place, you are reminded of your worth, your value, your inherent beauty. You remember that your purpose is not something you have to chase, it's something you remember. And the remembering happens in the pause, in the breath, in the silence between all the doing. Stillness is the bridge between your daily life and your deeper calling. So many people run from stillness because it forces them to face parts of themselves they've avoided. But growth requires honesty, and honesty requires space. In stillness, you see your truth without the filters. You notice what makes your heart ache, what brings you joy, what drains your energy, and what fills you with light. You can't align with your purpose if you're not aware of what's pulling you away from it. Stillness gives you the courage to choose differently. It allows you to make decisions from alignment, not fear. You begin to move not out of urgency, but out of intention. You begin to say yes only to what feels aligned with your values. You stop doing things just to be seen and start doing things that feel true. And slowly your life begins to reflect that truth. The more you honor stillness, the more your life begins to flow. Opportunities arrive without force. Connections deepen without effort. Healing begins without pressure because you're no longer chasing a version of success that isn't yours. You're no longer running away from yourself. You're walking in rhythm with who you are meant to be. Wellness is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's how you return home to yourself. It's how you find the strength to release what's not meant for you. It's how you build the courage to pursue what is. When you allow stillness to hold you, guide you, and speak to you, it will always lead you back to your purpose. Silence protects your energy. In a time when everything is designed to demand your attention, your phone buzzing with notifications, people constantly sharing opinions, the world pulling you in every direction, your energy becomes one of the most valuable things you own. And yet, so many give it away freely. They give it to arguments that go nowhere, to people who drain rather than uplift, to situations that don't align with their peace. But when you embrace silence, you begin to filter what truly deserves access to your heart, your thoughts, and your time. Protecting your energy doesn't mean shutting the world out. It means becoming selective. It means realizing that you do not have to explain yourself to everyone. You do not have to attend every conversation, fix every misunderstanding, or respond to every message. You can simply choose silence, not out of weakness, but out of strength. Because silence allows you to observe without absorbing. It gives you space to see people for who they are, not for who they pretend to be. It helps you discern the intentions behind words, the truth behind noise, and the value behind every interaction. When you live loudly, constantly expressing, constantly engaging, you may feel momentarily seen, but over time you feel exhausted. That exhaustion is a signal. It is your soul asking you to pause. Silence becomes a shield, not to hide behind, but to stand within. It becomes the sacred boundary between you and the chaos outside. It says, I am not available for everything. I am protecting my peace. And in doing so, you begin to realize that you don't need to be everywhere for everyone all the time. Some will not understand your silence. They will take it personally. They will try to provoke you into responding. But you owe no one the pieces of you that you're still learning to protect. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every conflict deserves your voice. Not every presence deserves your energy. Silence is how you regain control over your emotional landscape. It's how you teach yourself to respond with purpose instead of reacting out of impulse. You start to notice how silence calms your nervous system. It creates space in your mind. It softens your heart. It teaches you to listen, truly listen. Not just to others, but to yourself. You start to ask, what do I actually need right now? Who am I becoming when I stay silent long enough to hear my own voice? And that voice, no longer drowned by the noise of the world, begins to speak with clarity. It begins to guide you with wisdom that can only come from within. As you begin to move through life more quietly, you find that energy multiplies when it's preserved. You're no longer emotionally exhausted by conversations that go in circles. You're no longer spiritually drained by trying to be understood by people who choose not to understand. Your silence becomes your sanctuary. It becomes the space where you charge, reflect, and return to yourself. It reminds you that presence does not always require words, and strength does not always require sound. You also begin to experience relationships differently. The ones who truly care won't be threatened by your silence. They'll understand that sometimes quiet is healing. They'll give you space to breathe and still hold space for your presence. And in return, you'll show up for them with more clarity, more intention, and more depth. Because your silence has restored what noise once tried to take from you. Your roundedness, your self-awareness, your ability to connect without losing yourself. The more you protect your energy, the more you realize how sacred it is. You begin to live with more discernment. You begin to value depth over noise, stillness over performance, and peace over approval. And you start to embody a quieter kind of power, one that doesn't need to announce itself but is felt in every room you enter. In silence, the right people recognize your worth. There is something powerful about not chasing, not begging, not constantly proving yourself. When you learn to sit with yourself and find peace in your own presence, you begin to radiate a different kind of energy, an energy that doesn't scream for attention, but draws in the people who are meant for you, those who can see you clearly without you having to perform, convince, or explain. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the quiet strength within you. And only those who have the depth to look beyond the surface will truly see what you carry. When you stop over-explaining your heart to people who never care to understand it, you create space for those who do. You no longer waste words trying to fit into places where your spirit doesn't belong. You no longer shape-shift just to feel seen, because you have seen yourself. You have sat in the quiet with your wounds, your dreams, your fears, and your truth. And in doing so, you have accepted your worth without needing it to be validated by applause. That kind of self-recognition changes the way you move through the world. It creates a boundary of energy that only those with sincerity and substance can cross. There is no desperation in silence. There is no neediness in stillness. When you no longer rely on noise to declare your value, you invite people into your life who are drawn not to your volume but to your essence. These people will not need loud declarations or constant reminders. They will feel your presence even when you say nothing. They will value your silence not as absence but as depth. And through them, you'll experience the kind of connection that isn't built on performance, but on truth. Often, we mistake the absence of attention for the absence of worth. But the two are not the same. Just because someone doesn't see your value doesn't mean it isn't there. It means they weren't meant to witness it. The right people will not need a spotlight to recognize your light. They will not require an explanation to understand your silence. They will feel your soul in your stillness, and they will know how to honor it because they've done the inner work too. They've sat in their own quiet. They've healed in their own solitude, and from that place they can meet you with presence and respect. You begin to realize that real connections do not compete with noise. They don't demand performance. They arrive gently, they unfold slowly. They are built on mutual energy, not effort born from fear. And those who are aligned with your spirit will never make you feel like you have to fight for your place in their life. They will honor your silence as a part of who you are. They will trust the spaces between your words, and in return, you will find yourself able to be soft, to be honest, to be you, without hesitation. When you let go of the need to be constantly heard, you make room for genuine presence. You start to notice who leans in when you're quiet, who checks in when you disappear for a while, who values your being over your doing. And these are the people who deserve a seat at your table, not the ones who only stay for the performance, but the ones who remain for the essence. Because they see you, not just the version of you that shows up in the world, but the one who sits in silence, gathering strength in the shadows. In a noisy world, choosing silence is a radical